The LLMs from China are changing the landscape, and you need to be aware of it.
All right, let's jump right in. For the last few years, the whole conversation around AI has been dominated by just a handful of huge names, right? Mostly from the US. But something big is happening right now. A shift that could completely change how your business uses AI. And honestly, it's something most people aren't even paying attention to yet.
So, what are you looking at? 96%. And no, that's not some marketing number. That's the score a Chinese AI model just got on a really tough, prestigious American math competition. And that number, well, it should make every single one of us in this space just stop and think for a second.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Look at this direct comparison. You've got DeepSeek v3.2, the model from China, actually beating OpenAI's latest and greatest. For years, we've all kind of just assumed there was this quality gap, that the best models were coming out of the West. Well, this suggests that gap isn't just closed. In some of the hardest tests out there, it's been totally flipped on its head.
But hang on, here is the absolute kicker. DeepSeek didn't just build this powerhouse model and lock it away behind some crazy expensive API. No, they released it as open source. That means you, me, your company, anyone can download it, run it on their own servers, and tweak it for their exact needs, all without paying crazy API fees or sending your private company data out into the cloud. This is a total game changer.
So, look, this isn't just a one-off thing, right? This isn't just one model having one good day on a math test. We are watching a super fast, accelerating trend, and the numbers behind it, they're absolutely striking.
In this chart, it just perfectly shows you how fast this is all happening. A Rand Corporation study found that Chinese LLM market share went from just 3% to 13% in 2 months. That's not slow growth. That's a rocket ship taking off.
And we're talking about a massive scale here. Take Alibaba's open source model, Qwen. It's already been used to create over 180,000 other models around the world. We're seeing these providers grabbing huge chunks of users in dozens of countries. And the price? Oh my gosh, the price is just a no-brainer. A model from Minimax gives you similar quality to a top Western one for about 8% of the cost. You're paying like 8 cents on the dollar. It's no wonder that global usage has exploded from barely 1% to nearly 30% in about a year.
Okay, so you see the numbers, you see the trend. It's happening fast. But let's bring this home. What does this open source wave from China actually mean for you, for your daily work? How can you turn this whole situation into a real strategic advantage?
Well, it really boils down to 3 huge advantages. First, pretty obviously, you can slash your costs. We heard about one startup that saved 30% just by fine-tuning one of these models. Second, data sovereignty. This is huge. For anyone dealing with sensitive data, especially with rules like GDPR in Europe, running a model on your own hardware means your data never leaves your site. And third, you're not locked in anymore. You're no longer totally at the mercy of one big company and whatever they decide to charge you tomorrow. You get to be in control.
But you know, this isn't just about cool new tech or saving a few bucks. This whole trend is plugged into a much bigger picture. What's happening with geopolitics and this growing anxiety about who controls our data?
Let's just be real for a second. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world, and it's making companies nervous. When something happens like Microsoft being ordered by the US government to shut down an email account for an international criminal court prosecutor, well, that sends a message. If you're a company outside the US, you start to realize that being totally dependent on American tech comes with some serious political risks, and you start looking for alternatives.
And this quote from Cloudflare's CTO just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures how businesses are feeling. It's not just about abstract politics. It's about having the freedom to build what you need to build without this nagging fear that your main vendor could just pull the plug, jack up the prices, and put your entire operation at risk.
Okay, so powerful new models, incredible savings, way more control. This all sounds amazing, right? Maybe a little too good to be true? And you know what? That is a totally fair question to ask. What's the catch here?
Because this is not a one-sided story, and anyone who tells you it isn't giving you the full picture. Jumping into any new technology, especially one that comes from a geopolitical competitor, means you have to go in with your eyes wide open and really evaluate the very real risks. And these are totally legitimate concerns. First off, these models might be trained with different cultural values, which could affect how they handle sensitive topics. That's something you need to be aware of. Second, of course, there are security questions you have to ask when you're using technology from a major competitor. And finally, there's your own reputation. You have to think, how are my clients, my stakeholders, going to feel when they find out we're using these tools?
You've got to have answers to these questions. So you've got this massive opportunity on one side, and you've got these very real risks on the other. What do you do? What's the smart play here? Well, the answer isn't to just dive in head first, but it's definitely not to ignore it either. The answer is to be pragmatic, to be smart about it. Look, here's a super simple, super low-risk way to dip your toes in the water. First, just pick a task in your business that isn't sensitive, something low stakes. Second, download one of these top open source models and just run it on a local machine. Third, do a simple side-by-side test. Compare its results to what you're getting from your current tools. And finally, just do the math. Figure out what the real-world cost-benefit is for you. See? This isn't about some massive, risky change. It's just about smart, controlled experimentation.
Because at the end of the day, when you really think about it, what's the real risk here? It's not experimenting and finding out these models aren't a good fit. The biggest risk, by far, is burying your head in the sand, ignoring this huge shift, and getting caught completely flat-footed when your competition has already lapped you. So I'll just leave you with this thought. This isn't some far-off hypothetical future trend. It is happening right now. The tools are here, the savings are real, and the performance is, as we've seen, incredibly competitive. Your competitors are almost certainly looking at this stuff. So the only question left to ask is, can you really afford not to?
I hope you found that interesting. This video is based on a blog I've written, and I've put the link to it in the comments below. If you like this sort of material, remember to subscribe to the channel. And this blog and this topic is one of the predictions that I'm going to be talking about in a webinar shortly. So you might want to check out the webinar too.